Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy and your favorite censorship advocate, Gardiner. No, I'm not done kicking this hornet's nest. This is completely off the cuff, and I'm just going to talk about a couple of the types of comments that I saw have been seeing in the last few videos that I've made. All right, so in my last video, I said that I practice moderation in my videos, or in the comment section of my videos, rather. I say, you're welcome to disagree with me, you're welcome to do whatever, but you can't swear, because swearing fosters a hostile environment. You can disagree with that, but that's what I believe. And I have seen, since I have banned swearing over 2 years ago, by the way, since I've been banned swearing in my comments section, the quality and caliber of conversation that has taken place in my comments has significantly improved. And many people have noticed that. So if you're unable to cope with the fact that I have rules for my comment section, then you're welcome to not leave a comment. So DJHG2000 said, a funny thing about using curse words is that when they're used appropriately and with moderation, they actually have objective health benefits. Therefore, I think it's a bit misguided if you put a hard auto ban on it. We should allow some swearing depending on the context. I respectfully ask you to research the subject. Curse versus mental health in your favorite search engine is probably a good starting point, and reconsider the hard auto ban. So I'm not going to argue that there are objective health benefits to swearing. It's a stress relief, right? I don't have any qualms with swearing in real life. I swear rather frequently in real life, but on YouTube, it's not necessary. And I get that it's a stress relief, but to argue that you should allow swearing on YouTube because it's a stress relief, brother, there are few things in this world less stressful than leaving a YouTube comment. If you think it is stressful, then you're doing something wrong. I think it's just as hard to tell when someone is joking in a YouTube comment as it is to tell what someone's tone is or their argumentative posture is when you're talking with someone. In text, right? In a comment, in a YouTube post, in a whatever, right? If you are as an individual are presented with two comments and they're conveying the exact same message, except one of them uses swearing and one of them doesn't, the one with cursing is almost universally considered to be more aggressive. Generally speaking, cursing just feels more aggressive. And the reason I have automodded words like the F word is because there's really no place for it here. Using that type of language leads to a perceived sense of aggressiveness. My hypothesis is that it fosters animosity even when none is intended. I mean, you can swear all you want in real life, and even if you swear, you're still going to interpret other people's use of cursed and strong language like that as aggressive towards you or whoever. It's not necessary, and I have found that my comment section is significantly more prosperous in terms of actual debate since I, 2 years ago, added a couple of words to a banned list. All right, F. Cole Cumbry says, how am I supposed to feel free to speak my mind when I should also be afraid of getting censored? And he says, by the way, this is a real question. I'm hoping for an actual answer. And you know what? I actually answered this in text form. I'm going to answer this here too, because I feel like this is really important. I fear being misunderstood more than I fear censorship. And if you're using strong language, swearing, I don't know what you want to call it, I feel like you're doing what you're trying to say a disservice when you use that stuff on the internet. I really do. So my big concern is when people misunderstand each other. And if you look at my comment section and you see the kind of comments that people leave, they're generally respectful, and people generally try to understand each other in my comments. But if you start swearing at each other, if you start calling each other names, if you use racial epithets, nobody's going to take you seriously. People are going to think you're being hostile towards them, and they're not going to listen. And then their only goal in responding to you is to score points for themselves. That's not how a conversation works. That's not how a society works. And that's not what I will allow in my comment section. That's basically it. Most of the time, if I see someone being like verbally abusive, I will say, hey, you're not welcome to act like that in my comment section. And most of the time people are like, oh, whoa, bro. Okay, I understand. Otherwise, if I find it particularly humorous and I find a way that I can like ridicule them in video, I will put their comments up on the screen in my videos and say, this is not how you're supposed to act. And that has helped significantly with the discourse in my comment section. So I reserve deleting comments for like outright falsehoods like a stolen 2020 election. I delete those comments and I ban those channels. Otherwise, you're welcome to say whatever you want in my comments. You can call me stupid. I don't give a crap. I really don't. But if you swear or if you use like racial epithets, you're going to have your comment stuck in the automod bin, and I generally don't even look in there. It's not worth my time. Other than that, as long as you're being excellent to other people, you don't have anything to fear. And even if you get banned, you have nothing to fear because it's a YouTube comment section. So in my last video, I said that conservatives used to believe that a private company cutting off their relationship with other entities is a perfectly legitimate form of business practice. Omega asks, at what time did conservatives think censorship was a good thing? A bunch of comments that I got said that I was wrong about that, saying that, conservatives don't believe in blocking people from using services because that's censorship. I think that's an insane position to hold. So among the free speech crowd, and when I say free speech crowd, I'm talking about this free speech absolutists who believe there are no rules and no consequences for speech ever. That's beyond the pale to me. But when I say free speech crowd, that's what I'm talking about. The free speech crowd would probably defend someone's ability to start up a web server and start spamming with it, right? And you know what? If you're going to start up a web server and start spamming with it, I got no problem with that. But let's say that you go to like Linode or DigitalOcean or something, and you create an account there, and you click the little I agree button when you create your account, and you spin up a new virtual server and start sending out emails, right? Spamming emails. Are you being censored when Linode shuts down your account? No, you're not. Do you know why? Because you signed a contract by clicking the little I agree button that you're going to abide by the terms of service. And if you violate the terms of service of that account, well, then the company has every right to sever their contract with you and cease working with you. And the same goes for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Google and any other company. These companies have every right in the world to not do business with certain people, especially people who break the rules that they agreed to when they signed up for their account. And it used to be conservatives a couple of years ago, before Donald Trump and his snowflake brigade came around, they were the people who would defend these companies' rights to enforce the rules of their own contract and to sever relationships with other private entities. These aren't companies that are owned by the government, right? These companies are privately held, and they have every right to deny service to certain people who break the rules. And if it says it in the contract, they even have a right to just arbitrarily exclude people from having service to their accounts. Doesn't matter. These companies have every right to do what they're doing. And we can debate about what the meaning of censorship is, but it doesn't matter, because free speech extends as far as Congress shall make no law. Congress, the United States government, cannot censor you. Congress shall not make a law. Not Facebook, not Instagram, not Twitter, not YouTube, Congress. So we can debate on the definition of what censorship is. And fair enough if you want to call what Facebook and Twitter are doing when they deplatform censorship. But I think it does a disservice to the idea of censorship to call enforcing community codes of conduct or terms of service censorship. I think that's crazy. Whether you read the terms of service or not, whether you read the code of conduct or not, when you check that box, you have signed a contract with those companies. So I don't know what you're complaining about. So you can complain if you want, but you look like the fool. You're playing the fool. And truthfully, the problem is that these companies, including Valve, by the way, these companies have positioned themselves at this point. They have said, we stand for free speech as a marketing gimmick. That's the problem. These companies facing this backlash from these Trump snowflakes, these guys, the reason that these Trump snowflakes are so up in arms about this is because Twitter and Facebook and Valve and all of these other companies have put themselves in this position. They have said, as a marketing gimmick, as a dumb, stupid, absent-minded slogan for their marketing might, they have said, we stand for free speech. No, they don't. They don't give a crap about free speech. They don't. Period. And so now people are actually calling their bluff on it. See, this is not me defending these companies. This is me saying, stop. Don't use these services if you don't like them. So Thomas Leonard says, Google is stepping on First Amendment rights just like Facebook is, and Twitter, and so many others. Prove me wrong. The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So Thomas here says Google is stepping on First Amendment rights, just like Facebook and Twitter. Except that the First Amendment says, it guarantees that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. I don't see the connection there. Kearns Noel says, feel comfortable speaking their minds, but Lord help you if you offend him personally. We can't have those that offend and don't think about what's offensive. I mean, it's not like that's an ever-changing bar and entirely subjective. And you know what? I'll deal with the offensive censorship thing in a second. But I hear so many neckbeards, like a worrying number of neckbeards say, well, if something is subjective, then it's therefore invalid. That's not the case at all. Subjectivity is all that you have. And you can try to tell yourself a story about how something is objective. But in reality, human beings are fundamentally storytelling creatures. And the only way that human beings understand the world around them is through storytelling. It doesn't matter if that story is Star Wars. It doesn't matter if that story is Christianity. It doesn't matter what that story is, even if it's science. And yes, science is a story. I am not concerned about objectivity, because I don't think that there is such a thing. Objectivity is yet another tool of language that we use to try and understand the world around us. And I don't think it's a particularly useful tool to everyday human beings. I really don't. I mean, to argue that subjectivity is somehow inferior, that's insane to me, because first of all you have is subjectivity. Your mental state is entirely subjective. You can wake up one morning for some reason just grumpy. Is that subjective? Yes, of course it is. But doesn't change the fact that you're grumpy. So, I mean, that's the thing. Subjectivity, not that bad. As for the personally offended thing. Now, in my last video, I said that I will delete comments, and I'm not afraid to delete comments if they break the rules habitually. And that's really the threshold for deleting someone's comments. And even then, I don't really delete comments. I will just permanently and silently ban you from leaving comments if you break the rules over and over again. And the rules are pretty simple. Don't swear, don't use racial slurs, and be respectful to everybody. That's about it. Otherwise, you will be silently banned. In the last year, I think I've deleted a handful of comments, maybe 15, 20, because they were spreading the falsehood of an election being stolen in the United States. That did not happen. That is an absolute lie, and there's no place for that kind of undermining of democracy in my comment section. So that's what I'll delete. If you're gonna like spread absolute falsehoods like that, you get deleted. I don't like it when mean people on the internet say mean things in my comments. It affects my mental health. Look, truly, most of the time, people don't get under my skin when it comes to mean comments. And my goal with moderating my comments is not for my own personal mental health. Doesn't really bother me. The things that bother me in comments, especially on my channel, is when someone says something like, you made a mistake at this point in the video where, you probably should have cut like 3 or 4 frames later. That kind of gets under my skin because, especially if I agree with them, I'm like, dang it, I didn't see that when I was editing. And that's what bums me out. Most of the time, when it comes to moderating my comment section, my goal is much higher than my own mental health. My goal is the health of the other people in the comments. I want to foster a real conversation, and I don't believe real conversations can be had when people are just trying to score points with each other and use vitriolic language. It just doesn't work like that. For you to conflate my belief with this whininess is just, it's ridiculous. People on the internet say mean crap because the concept of confrontation and consequences doesn't exist on the internet. As such, you shouldn't be taking people on the internet seriously in the first place. I don't, let alone having it affect your mental health. Honestly, it's pathetic. Ludicrous kill. That's the kind of comment that actually ends up getting people banned from my channel, if I'm being quite honest. You don't understand what mental health is if you're going to say you shouldn't let people giving you crap on the internet affect your mental health. That's not how human psychology works. And saying honestly it's pathetic is honestly pretty pathetic, if I'm being honest. Generally speaking, comments like this don't bother me on like an emotional or mental health level. Like, I find them kind of sad almost. Like, I'm sad for this person who is obviously steeped in some kind of macho personality disorder to think, oh, I just can't let anything bother me. I let things bother me all the time. I mean, you don't really have control over what bothers you and what doesn't. So the fact that like people say mean things on the internet all the time, you shouldn't take them seriously. I agree with that. But you also shouldn't let it affect your mental health. You don't get it. And in fact, I'm calling you out right now. I'm calling you out. And if I see a comment like this again from you, you will be banned from leaving comments on my channel again. That's the kind of comment that doesn't belong. And it fosters the wrong kind of conversation. And I just don't, it's not conscionable. Fredinator, I remember when you used to be mad at companies that sold out to China because of the regime and censorship, etc. Now you support it. No, I don't support censorship. I don't support government-led censorship. I don't believe that you should support companies that sell out to China. But I think there's a huge difference between like the Chinese, the Great Chinese Firewall and Chinese censorship, and what's going on with social media companies that are completely independent, not part of the government at all, and are acting independently of the government and one another for the most part. One another. It's kind of bonkers to me that you could conflate China and the Chinese regime with Facebook and Twitter. I don't understand that. I don't see the connection there. I really don't. Like if Joe Biden were to like summon Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and whoever else, Jack Dorsey and all these guys over to the White House and say, here's where it is, Jack. You're gonna delete all of these MAGA supporters from your website. I wouldn't support that. If Congress were to say MAGA is a terrorist organization and therefore any website any MAGA user has ever used needs to be deleted, I wouldn't support that. I don't believe that the government has any right in any way, shape, or form in order to censor or to pass laws that outlaw language or speech. But that's not what's happening here. You signed a contract with these companies that you would abide by their terms of service, and these companies have actually enforced that for once. Donald Trump, hundreds of times throughout his presidency, hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, broke Twitter's terms of service. And yet they kept him around because he was president of the United States. I had been calling for Donald Trump's removal from Twitter well before Twitter even said anything about the possibility of that happening. Why? Because he broke the terms of service. And I don't care if you're the president of the United States or the poorest guy with a Twitter account in the world. Everyone has to be treated equally on these platforms. And if they're not, that's when you can cry censorship. Fredinator. But see, here's the thing. Out of all these comments, only one of them stands ready for actual retribution from me. And it's the ludicrous kill guy. The second comment he left, not the first one. You can make fun of me. You can try and portray me as weak. I don't care. But if you start to say things that have a macho personality disorder problem, if you post something that, you shouldn't let things people say on the internet affect your mental health, even that I'm probably not going to delete. But that's the kind of comment that, if I see multiple times, might get you banned from commenting. Whatever. I'm done. I want to know what you think. I'm ready for yet another round of scorn and unsubscribes. Let me know what you think. I'm done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.